Mobileye, Intel's fastest growing business, is going all in on Robotaxi. Stephanie Condon is here with us to talk about this. So, off the top, Stephanie, the big question is why?
Right. So Mobileye makes autonomous vehicle technology, and they were acquired by Intel in 2017. And at that point, they started a mobility as a service unit. And you just have to look at the projections for the market to understand why. Mobileye says that by 2030, robotaxis are should have a total addressable market of 160 billion. And by comparison, the market for every other part of the self-driving car business that Mobileye wants to be a part of comes to just 72.5 billion. So robotaxis are a huge business. And kind of what I thought was a more interesting point, what we learned from Mobileye recently, was their CEO has said that robotaxis are, quote, a necessary step along the way to the holy grail of consumer autonomous vehicles. So I think when we think about self-driving cars, it really opens up a whole world of possibilities of different forms of car ownership and sharing. But apparently the Mobileye CEO thinks that before we get to that full mature market, robotaxis are going to have to be the next necessary step.
All right, so Stephanie, did they expand really on why they think robotaxis are a necessary step, as they called them?
Yeah, so this market is going to roll out in phases, self-driving cars. And first of all, if there's anything that could kill this industry, it might be regulation. And so it makes more sense, first of all, to roll out a limited number of licenses to organizations that can, have responsibility for a fleet of self-driving vehicles before just anyone could own a self-driving car. So that's one reason. And next, there's just a lot of cost and complexity around owning self-driving cars, as right now and in the future, in the immediate future. So, nobody's going to really want to fork out the amount you'd have to pay to own the first, self-driving car in the market. So from a cost perspective, it makes more sense to do robotaxis first. And then also there's a lot of geographic mapping that needs to be done for autonomous vehicles to be able to understand the roads they're driving. And that's a process that's still ongoing, and companies like Mobileye are in the process of collecting that data.
Yeah, so many moving parts here with Stephanie. Well, what about plans? Did they talk at all about how Mobileye plans to build the business up?
Yeah, and so as I just mentioned, the first step is mapping. So Mobileye plans to get the autonomous vehicle market going thanks to its crowdsourced approach to building ultra precise maps. So it's running automatic map creation all over the world with its automotive partners that it already has technology agreements with. So that includes BMW, Volkswagen, Nissan, and other car makers. So they expect to have the European Union fully mapped by the first quarter of 2020, and the US mapped mostly by the end of 2020. And Mobileye also just forged some agreements with car makers in India and China that should open up those markets for mapping. And mapping itself has the value there for Mobileye. It expects that that mapping data has a market of 3.5 billion that Mobileye wants to tap into. So beyond mapping, Mobileye is launching a driverless ride-hailing business with Volkswagen in Tel Aviv in 2022. And they also recently announced a partnership with a company in Paris to test new transportation solutions starting in 2020. And if that works out, they could, Mobileye could eventually have mobile taxi service, robotaxi services around the globe.
And Stephanie, although we're hearing so much about self-driving cars, I mean, really the market, it's still really immature and will be a while until we really see these rolled out in mass numbers. So did they talk at all about what could potentially happen to robotaxis once that self-driving market really does mature?
Yeah, well, mobility as a service isn't just a stepping stone for self-driving cars. Once the market is fully mature, you know, a lot of people probably won't want to own their own cars. Cars are expensive. They require maintenance and a place to park. So, you know, analysts out there say that mobility as a service is probably here to stay. And you see other uh, companies in the automotive market up and down the chain, like enterprise rental cars, they're getting into the mobility as a service market. And the investment bank UBS estimates that by 2035, 80% of people will be using robotaxis, and that car ownership in urban areas could fall by 70%. So it's going to be probably really widely used, this idea of just, you know, calling up a robotaxi and there it is.
I, for one, love the idea of not owning a car and just making a call and having my ride there waiting for me. So we'll see how this all plays out, Stephanie. We appreciate your article on this, and you can find it on ZDNet. Thanks for watching.